This is a Let's Talk Church Safety and Security microsode with your host, Paul Buckner.
Well, hello there. So sometimes I get a wild hair and I'll record several of these in one session. I am driving to church this morning, and one of the things I wanted to talk about is coming away from COVID and getting back to normal and the way we've done things for a long time. It's time to start reassessing things. I see this a lot right now. Businesses, and that extends to churches as well, they're not in many areas back to normal when it comes to your fire marshal coming in and assessing things. So if you're not getting inspections from your fire marshal, a lot of times we forget about those fire extinguishers, and it's time to go around and do your own check. And I was at a business recently, and I posted it on social media that in the back of their shop area, they had three large fire extinguishers, one near each door, which I liked, and they had exactly 0 functional fire extinguishers. All three fire extinguishers were dead as a doornail. And so I took one up. The owner was there that day. He bounces between locations, and I showed it to him. And then we went and looked at all 3 of them and found out that sure enough, all 3 were dead. And he went ahead and contacted the company that manages those and says, hey, it kind of came down to almost, what are we paying you for? And they're like, yeah, we'll send somebody out to check them. We're just not doing inspections unless it's on demand right now. That's dumb. It's time. Just my opinion. It's time to, if you're that freaked out about it, wear a mask and take precautions, but it's time to get back out there and start inspecting, because what we're going to see is this is going to come down to negligence, and people are going to start getting hurt or killed because they run up and you don't think about that fire extinguisher until you need it. And then you're looking around for that big red fire extinguisher that we're trained to look for, and you run over there and it's bingo fuel. There's no pressure in the tank. You got nothing to work with. And I don't mean a spent fire extinguisher. I mean, in case you don't know, on a fire extinguisher, there's a gauge on the front of it at the top. And there's 2 red areas and a green area on it, every fire extinguisher that I'm familiar with. And it's telling you if you're in the green, you're good to go, you've got the right pressure. If you're not in the green, you're in trouble. And so fire extinguishers are not that expensive, but it is something that a person can take a look at and say, oh, okay, this is not safe, we need to get this fixed. And so swinging that all the way around, it's time to start going out and doing these little inspections where we go out and we're like, okay, this is we're going to inspect all of our fire extinguishers, and we're going to look at all of our smoke detectors, and we're going to look at these different systems and start checking them. I did a door check Sunday after one of our guys went around and locked all the doors. He's not security, he's staff. Went around and locked all of our doors, and I walked up in this one particular door, and he's really good about checking them. Always good to have a second set of eyes and ears. I walked up on the outside, and I'm just gently jiggling doors as I'm walking down through there, and the door opened. And that would have been that way throughout the week, because a lot of times staff will go in and out, but they don't use that door. So at any point, and we're not in a high homeless area, but there is opportunistic crime that happens anyway, and somebody may come around and try door handles and step in and see what they can grab, and that could have been bad. And somebody could have had just enough time to get in there, grab something as the alarm sounds, and then leave, exfiltrate the situation long before law enforcement could arrive. And so it's just good to be doing these kinds of checks and looking for things as we go. Just swinging around, just one more thing. It's icy right now, and last Sunday I was doing a check on the outside of the building. There was just a little bit of ice left, and as I was walking around the outside of the building, I saw it, and it was kind of slushy, and ended up taking a caution cone that we have, and our parking area didn't need it at that moment, and I put it over the top of that icy area to help anybody that was walking up on it, and it was almost gone. It was one of those things that I was one of like 4 people left at church. No one was going to be back there. I didn't have the tools. Everything was locked up. But what I was able to do, because it melted, it was like was in the 60s at that point, and it was just a little bit of shadow, and it was going to melt within a few minutes. But for that few minutes, if somebody had stepped on it, it would have been a danger. Just little things like that. I talk about the ink pen on the floor that causes just enough loss of traction to cause somebody to fall. So anyway, swinging back around to my original intent, and that is, as we are getting back to normal and doing things, it's time to really start looking at, especially our fire extinguisher in our gear. Start going through our bags. Start looking: is your AED battery, is it good? Probably not. Has your medical dehydrated? Are things coming out of date? Now, there are things that really don't matter too much that are out of date, that are emergency trauma gear. But for a lot of your stuff in your regular medical bag, it's time to start rotating through that stuff and either relegating it to a backup roll, if it's still sealed and packaged, or actually removing it. Make sure what the guidelines are in your state. Typically, if you have a mass shooting and you use a snot-soaked handkerchief to at least close off the bleeding and create a pressure bandage, and I'm being obnoxious, somebody's not going to throw too huge of a fit. The first thing they're going to do is sanitize the wound when they get them to the hospital. But at that point, it's all hands on deck, and whatever you can do to help somebody. But it's time to start looking at our gear again. And it's time to start thinking about training. So on that note, I'm going to church. God bless.
If you enjoyed this microsode, check out the video and audio versions of the Let's Talk Church Safety and Security podcast.